Hi, Hare Krishna, and welcome to today's class, Bhagavad Gita. We'll start with the auspicious Mangala Charanam as usual. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurummilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Nadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. So I'm not sure. Is it the same link as usual? Because from Krishna Styles they didn't join.
No one joined. Did you log into your account and it was on like it said the same title as with the
I think so, yeah, but let me just send the invitation. I'll send it to you and you can forward
yeah,
it.
good.
Oh no, I can't send it to anyone because I don't have it's not my computer. I don't have WhatsApp on this.
Oh,
anyways.
Maybe that's why. You have to log into your WhatsApp.
We'll just go ahead and do class.
Wait, no, let's find a way to like
because we're live streaming right now.
Okay.
Let's see if anyone's there. Maybe the girls are on the live stream.
Wait, let's here. Is anyone on like
I'm not sure what's happening.
This is not a different link, this is the same link, right?
Thought we were live streaming. Oh, we are. Anyways, I'll just start. See if you can figure it out.
Okay.
In the meantime.
Yeah.
So we'll go to our memorization verse for the week, which is Bhagavad Gita 10:10, very important verse. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Let's do it again. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. I give the understanding, that's my mercy. I give the understanding, that's my mercy. I give the understanding to my devotees so that they can come to me. Bye. All right. So now we're going to pick up where we left off, which is chapter 14, text 3. Is the same link? You use the same link? Okay, so they're just spacing out.
It's 14. Sorry, what?
14.3. All right, so this Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma Tasmin Garbam Dadamyaham Sambhava Sarva Bhutanam Tato Bhavati Bharata. You want to read?
Sure. The total material substance is called Brahman, is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate. making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharat. This is an explanation of the world. Everything that takes place is due to the combination of Kshetra and Kshetragya, the body and the spirit soul. This combination of material nature and the living entity is made possible by the Supreme God Himself. The Mahat Tattva is the total cause of the total cosmic manifestation, and that total substance of the material cause, in which there are three modes of nature, is sometimes called Brahman. The Supreme Personality impregnates that total substance, and thus innumerable universes become possible. This total material substance, the Mahat Tattva, is described as Brahman in the Vedic literature. Mundaka Upanishad 1.1.19, Tasmad Etad Brahma Namarupam Anam Chal Jayate. The Supreme Person impregnates that Brahman with the seeds of the living entities, the 24 elements, beginning from earth, water, fire, and air, and all material energy, and they constitute what is called Mahad Brahma, or the Great Brahman. The material nature, as explained in the 7th chapter, beyond this there is another, superior nature, the living entity. Into material nature, the superior nature, the superior nature is mixed by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thereafter all living entities are born of this material nature. The scorpion lays its eggs in piles of rice, and sometimes it is said that the scorpion is born out of rice, but the rice is not the cause of the scorpion. Actually, the eggs were laid by the mother. Similarly, material nature is not the cause of the birth of the living entities. The seed is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they only seem to come out as products of material nature. Thus, every living entity, according to his past activities, has a different body created by this material nature, so that the entity can enjoy or suffer according to his past deeds. The Lord is the cause of all the manifestations of living entities in this material world.
Jai. Yeah. So in my book, The Living Gita, I call this section from verses 3 to 5, the great impregnation. And Prabhupada uses that word here. That Krishna is saying that the total material substance is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings. So, yeah, Krishna is describing here how the souls come to be in the material world. And so how it works, he's saying, is that he's the father, and he's going to say that in the next verse more emphatically even, that he's the original father of everyone, and he transfers the embryo. He uses the word garbha, means embryo. Yonir means the womb. So he's literally using this language in the Sanskrit. Mama yonir. So yeah, yonir means womb, and garbha means the embryo. And he says that he's the father. So he transfers the embryo, which is okay, fine. The embryo is the aggregate of all the souls. So all the souls who are coming to take birth in the material world, they're all together, like a big aggregate, like a lump, like a big blob of souls, basically. All the souls who decided to misuse their small independence and reject the service of Krishna and come to the world to try to enjoy themselves independently, then they'll all get lumped together into what's figuratively called the embryo. And then Krishna transfers that embryo into the womb of the material energy, Prakriti, right? So Krishna is the Purusha, the Mahapurusha, the supreme male person, and Prakriti is feminine, and also sometimes called Mother Nature, right? So Krishna is the father, and Prakriti is Mother Nature, and the embryo that gets transferred from Krishna into material nature is the aggregate of all the souls, like us, all the souls who are about to be conditioned. So, of course, although he uses this language, it doesn't take place by any kind of, like sexual union, but it's all done by Krishna's glance. Just by the glance of Mahavishnu, he sends this aggregate of souls into the material world. He transfers them into material nature. And from that point on, then they start becoming influenced by the three modes of material nature, which this chapter is all about. So, That's basically what Krishna is saying here, is the process by which the souls come to be in this world. Okay. Yeah. The Supreme Person impregnates that Brahman. Yeah, so here he's saying Brahman means, the three modes of material nature is sometimes called Brahman also. Brahmahad Brahman, the great Brahman is material nature. So, and that's indicating that it's all Krishna's energy, right? By calling it Brahman, then that means that it's essentially spiritual. See, everything is essentially spiritual, but it comes to be, practically speaking, material when it's separated from Krishna. And that's how, when we use things in the service of Krishna, then they regain their spiritual nature, right? Like, Krishna talks about in chapter 4, text 24, talks about how when we use things in Krishna's service, then they become spiritual. I'll just read that verse because it's a really nice verse. If you want, you can turn to it too. It's 4:24. So he says, Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmaivatina Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. That, well, we can look at the, I like looking at the word for word this week, because Brahma means spiritual in nature. Arpana means the offering. Brahma means the supreme. And then he's using an analogy to a fire sacrifice, like a Vedic yajna, where ghee or butter is offered into the fire. So Havi means the butter or ghee. He says that becomes Brahma, that becomes spiritual. The Agno, the fire, Agni, also becomes spiritual. And then Brahmana, the Brahmanas who do the yajna, the Brahmin priests, they also are spiritual. And then by doing this yajna, they go to the spiritual kingdom. So everything becomes spiritual because it's all part of the offering. Yes, that's what he says. That how does it become spiritual? Because Brahma Karma Samadhina, because of complete absorption in spiritual activities. So when we are completely absorbed in spiritual activities, or when someone is completely absorbed in spiritual activities and devotional service to Krishna, then the things that they use in the service of Krishna become spiritual, and our very bodies, which are also instruments that we use in the service of Krishna, become also spiritualized. Right? That's why we say that the body of the spiritual master is not material. It's not an ordinary material body. The body is material when we use it just for a sense gratification in this material world. So it's all about how we use things. But everything is ultimately spiritual, but it's covered over by this film of material conditioning because of misuse. But as soon as we start connecting it again to Krishna through service, then that material conditioning, that material film becomes washed away, and then its spiritual essence is revealed. Yeah, so it's a very magical process. It's very magical. I mean, it's very not magical in the sense that we can't understand it, but it's just very, very sublime. It's very beautiful to think that everything is actually spiritual. And as soon as we just connect it back to Krishna, then it regains, although temporarily it seems material, but it will regain its spiritual qualities. Okay. And why? Because Krishna is the Father. So that's what we're going to hear about in the next verse. So the Father, if your father is if you have parents who are both, white-skinned, then the child is going to be white-skinned. If you have parents who are both brown-skinned, you're going to have a brown-skinned baby. Right? So the children, that's just natural. The children take on the qualities of the parents. So Krishna is saying that I am the Father. And he's saying that this material nature, Prakriti, is also Brahma, is also spiritual by nature. So in the combination of the spiritual Purusha, Krishna, and Prakriti, his energy, what's going to happen is you're going to get, because Prakriti is his separated material energy, but it's still his, he calls it Daivi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Dharatya. He says this divine energy of mine, he calls it Daivi, which means divine. So if we have a divine mother nature, and we have the Supreme Personality of God as the Father, then who are the children going to be? They're also going to be spiritual, right? So everything created from that combination is going to be spiritual. Okay, so let's hear more about Krishna's being the Father. Sarvayoneshu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasam Brahma Mahadyonir Aham Bija Pradapita. Pragati, would you like to read? Or someone there on Zoom? Arjuna,
I
okay.
can read.
Please.
Sorry, what verse are we on? I just joined.
14.4.
Okay, 14.4. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. In this verse, it is clearly explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original father of all living entities. The living entities are combinations of the material nature and the spiritual nature. Such living entities are seen not only on this planet, but on every planet, even on the highest, where Brahma is situated. Everywhere there are living entities. Within the earth there are living entities, even within water and within fire. All these appearances are due to the mother, material nature, and Krishna's seed-giving process. The purport is that the material world is impregnated with living entities who come out in various forms at the time of creation according to their past deeds.
Yeah. So we take birth in this material world according to our past deeds, and we get a certain material body that's fashioned by material nature. So yeah, again, we can compare it to like the process of conception, where the soul is provided from the father. So yeah, at the time of conception, then the father's the sperm cell that comes from the father is carrying, it's like a little vehicle for the soul. And so then the soul is injected into the womb of the mother, and then it combines with the egg cell there. And then from the mother, the soul gets a material body. So the father provides the soul, and the mother provides the body. And it's very similar here, that Krishna is providing the soul, he's transferring, injecting the souls into the womb of material nature, and material nature is providing the body. So just like the soul comes from the male and the body comes from the female. And then according to what kind of body that we get from material nature depends on our consciousness, our karma from previous lifetimes. So, yeah. And then once we get a body, now Krishna's going to explain what happens after that. Text 5. Sattvam rajastama iti guna prakriti sambhavaha nibadnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. Oh, we got Alia now. Oh,
I
Pragati, you
can,
figured out how to.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjun, he becomes conditioned by these modes. Purport: the living entity, because he is transcendental, has nothing to do with this material nature. Still, because he has become conditioned by the material world, he is acting under the spell of the three modes of material nature. Because living entities have different kinds of bodies, in terms of the different aspects of nature, they are induced to act according to that nature. This is the cause of the varieties of happiness and distress.
Yeah. So then once we get a certain kind of body, then we take birth, and then we fall under the influence of these three modes of material nature. That's what Krishna is saying. When the living entity comes in contact with nature, then we become conditioned by these modes. Even though he's saying that living entity actually has nothing to do with the modes, is by nature totally transcendental to the modes, but still we become conditioned by them because we're in this element. So it's kind of like, as devotees, we're always trying to keep ourselves in a pure environment and stay close to a temple community, a devotee community, and surround ourselves with devotees and kirtan and classes and prasadam and deities and, spiritual environment. And it's like a fish in water, you feel like, okay, this is really good. I can navigate this. I can be Krishna conscious. I'm doing okay. And then you may not have any propensity towards certain material activities. And as long as you stay in that environment, in your nice little safe devotee community, then everything is good. But if you start thinking, you know what, I'm feeling really spiritually strong, I think I can just live anywhere and I'll be fine. And then, so you leave the ashram or you leave, the proximity of the temple community and you go out and, get someplace in the middle of nowhere and, you get a job and you start you start feeling lonely because you don't have any friends. So and there's no devotees in the area. So you make friends with whoever's there and you start going out and doing stuff with it. So then because of that association, then gradually, you'll start developing desires, that you didn't have when you were just with the devotees. You'll feel like your values are changing, your desires are changing, your priorities in life are changing. And that's just because of the influence, right? The influence of the association, influence of the modes of nature, basically. So that's called conditioning, right? So when we're in the spirits like that, when we're in the spiritual world, everything is hunky-dory, everything's really nice, everyone's serving Krishna, nothing else to do, serve Krishna. But then we come to this material world and, we gradually get degraded by the material energy. And then we develop all kinds of desires that have nothing to do with the soul's real nature and the soul's real desires. So that's conditioning. We get conditioned by the material world. Yeah, and then we are induced, Prabhupada says. Living entities, different kinds of bodies in terms of aspects of nature, and they're induced to act according to that nature. And that causes us either happiness or distress. So it's like if you take birth in the body of a dog, then you're going to be induced to act like a dog. You can't just walk down the street peacefully. You have to go sniff after things. You have to urinate on trees and fire hydrants and things. You just have to do it. You're induced. You can't be like, this is so stupid. Why would I have to go crazy over this fire hydrant sniffing the other dog's pee and stuff? Like, who does that? It's like very absurd for a soul to do. Why, when you see you see some other dog, you have to start barking your head off. It's like, why, it's like very absurd for the soul. But you're induced. Why? Because you're a dog and that's what dogs do. So, yeah, it's a sad situation for the spirit, soul, and the material body. And I mean, we're humans, so we're thinking it's pretty dumb what dogs do. But what humans do is even worse, like going out and getting intoxicated. And if you just pretend that you're not a human and just observe the things that we do from the perspective of an eternal spiritual being, you're just going to be like, ay, ay, ay. Why? Why am I living this lifestyle? Okay. It's all conditioning. So now Krishna's going to go into more details about how we're conditioned, how the different modes condition us in different ways. Because, yeah, exactly this. If we can understand how we're conditioned and see, this is the great benefit of the human form of life. Because a dog, he can't not act like a dog. He doesn't have the intelligence or the freedom, the free will, to the extent that humans have. he's not able to overcome his nature. He's not able to overcome the nature which he has acquired by the influence of the three modes of material nature and its conditioning. But human beings have a greater proportion of free will to the extent that we're actually able to overcome our psychophysical natures. We're able to overcome the conditioning of the material body that we happen to take birth in. By understanding the purpose, the goal of life, and the process for attaining it, and having determination, right, and self-discipline and self-control. And that's why books like Bhagavad Gita and all the scriptures are talking about, controlling the mind, controlling the senses, not allowing ourselves to be pushed and pulled and by sense objects into, all the messes that we get ourselves into, because we can actually use our free will to overcome this nature, overcome our conditioning. And at the same time, we engage in practical processes of bhakti, which purify the conditioning. So first thing, we have to recognize that we're conditioned, right? We have to admit it. It's like when you go to Alcoholics Anonymous and you're like, my name is such and such, and I'm an alcoholic. We have to say, my name is Prabhupada Priya Devidasi, and I am a conditioned soul. I'm not supposed to be a conditioned soul. I'm supposed to be a pure soul. So this is a really bad situation, and I need help, and I can't help myself. I need a support group. I need guidance with this. I need a process like that. So that's what bhakti is. Bhakti is like Conditioned Souls Anonymous. All right. And we have, instead of a 12-step program, we have a 5-step program, or 5 parts to the process. So chanting the holy names, associating with devotees, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, scriptures, the Bhakti Shastras, worshiping the deity, and living in a holy place, visiting like holy places of Krishna's pastimes, living in a devotee community. If we do those 5 things, and we do them with determination to overcome our conditioning and reclaim our actual life, then, as pure spirit souls, as pure servants of Krishna, then we can do it. So first part of the process is also understanding how we're conditioned, and how to basically dismantle our material conditioning by knowing how it works, right? So if you have something that's, let's say, I think an analogy here. If you have a machine, that's not some gadget that's not working properly, then you can take it apart and look at the pieces very carefully, and then you can understand how they all work together, and you can put it back together in a way that it works. So what Krishna is doing is he's going to unpack, this thing of material nature. He's going to break it into its components. Take it apart and analyze the pieces. So the pieces of material nature are basically sattva gun, rajagun, and tamagun, the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So he's going to take them apart, and he's going to analyze each one and the way that they influence different parts of our life. And so we can understand how these things are working on us, and then we can overcome them. Okay, are you ready? Well, let's dive into it here. Text 6. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam manamayam sukha sangena badnati jnana sangena chanaga. Alia, would you like to read?
I would like to, but I'm driving.
Oh, okay. Is anyone else out there able to read? Who's got Krishna House? Just Adumna?
What's the verse? Oh, sorry. This
6.
is Krishna House.
14:6.
Okay, just 1 second. Oh, shoot. I accidentally closed it. Okay, I got it.
Oops. Oh, we can go back. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. This
Oh,
I think
sinless one.
I think
Please
my
read.
internet went out.
Well, we can hear you.
Yeah, but the page. Oh, okay, loaded now.
Okay.
All right. Translation. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, here it is. Translation. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Purport. All living entities conditioned by material nature are of various types. One is happy, another is very active, and another is helpless. All these types of psychological manifestations are causes of the entity's conditioned status in nature. How they are differently conditioned is explained in this section of Bhagavad Gita. The mode of goodness is first considered. The effect of developing the mode of goodness in the material world is that one becomes wiser than those otherwise conditioned. A man in the mode of goodness is not so much affected by material miseries, and has a sense of advancement in material knowledge. The representative type is the Brahmana, who is supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness. This sense of happiness is due to understanding that in the mode of goodness one is more or less free from sinful reactions. Actually, in the Vedic literature, it is said that the mode of goodness is means greater knowledge, and a greater sense of happiness. The difficulty here is that when a living entity is situated in the mode of goodness, he becomes conditioned to feel that he is advanced in knowledge and better than others. In this way, he becomes conditioned. The best examples are the scientist and the philosopher. Each is very proud of his knowledge, and because they generally improve their living conditions, they feel a sort of material happiness. This sense of advanced happiness in conditioned life makes them bound by the mode of goodness of material nature. As such, they are attracted toward working in the mode of goodness, and as long as they have an attraction for working in that way, they have to take some type of body in the modes of nature. Thus, there is no likelihood of liberation, or of being transferred to the spiritual world. Repeatedly, one may become a philosopher, a scientist, or a poet, and repeatedly become entangled in the same advantages. But the of energy.
Oh, we lost you there on that last sentence.
Internet.
I'll just reread the last sentence. Repeatedly, one may become a philosopher, a scientist, or a poet, and repeatedly become entangled in the same disadvantages of birth and death. But due to the illusion of the material energy, one thinks that that sort of life is pleasant. Okay, so yeah, this is Krishna's talking about the mode of goodness. So he's saying that mode of goodness is nirmalatvat, that it's mala means dirt, and nir means without. So it means without any dirt. In other words, it's pure. He says it's purer than the others. And then it's also prakasham, which means illuminating. Anamayam means without any sinful reaction. And then sukha sangena means basically that it gives you, happiness. So when we're in the mode of goodness, then that association with the mode of goodness brings us all these things. By associating with the mode of goodness, with people and activities in the mode of goodness, then we become pure. Our lives become illuminated. In other words, we get clarity. We can see the goal. We can see what's right, see what's wrong, see what to do, what not to do. We get free from sinful reactions, and we feel happiness. So the mode of goodness is very good, and that's why it's called goodness, because it leads us towards a good, pure, clean, healthy life. So if it was simply that, then it would all be good. But the problem is that it's the material world. So in the material world, there's always the tendency to degrade. And so people who live predominantly in the mode of goodness, how they become degraded is that they start thinking that they're better than other people because they're thinking, yep, I got my life all figured out, and that poor sod over there is totally, messed up. Or, I'm very happy and healthy, and all these people are just miserable because they're ignorant and they're chasing after the wrong things, and so a person in the mode of goodness can become proud, can become judgmental, and can actually start to feel that they're better than others, and condemn other people. So that's why it says they become conditioned by a sense of knowledge and happiness. And they have knowledge because they tend to be Brahmins. Brahmins are it's a class of people that value education, value knowledge, pursue knowledge, discuss philosophy and things like that. And so naturally they gain knowledge because they value it, and they try for it. They put in the effort to get it. And also they cultivate a lifestyle like what we read about in chapter 13, tolerance and patience and regulation, self-control, like that. But then their knowledge is not complete because pride arises. And remember, the first two items of knowledge were humility and pridelessness. So that's how they end up getting contaminated. So we have to strive for the mode of goodness, and be careful about pride, because pride is, like they say, pride cometh before a fall, right? And so we can rise up to the mode of goodness, but if we become proud, then it's only a matter of time before we're going to get degraded and then fall back down into the lower modes of passion and ignorance. Okay. Any questions about that? The mode of goodness in general? First, Krishna describes them very generally, and then he's going to go into some more details. Okay, so let's go on to the mode of passion. Rajo ragatmakam vidhi trishna sanga samudbhavam tanni badnati konteya karma sangena dehina. Want to read again?
Yeah. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. The mode of passion is characterized by the attraction between man and woman. Woman has attraction for man, and man has attraction for woman. This is called the mode of passion. And when the mode of passion is increased, one develops the hankering for material enjoyment. He wants to enjoy sense gratification. For sense gratification, a man in the mode of passion wants some honor in society and in the nation, and he wants to have a happy family and nice children, wife, and house. These are the products of the mode of passion. As long as one is hankering after these things, he has to work very hard. Therefore, it is clearly stated here that he becomes associated with the fruits of his activities and thus becomes bound by such activities. In order to please his wife, children, and society, and to keep up his prestige, one has to work. Therefore, the whole material world is more or less in the mode of passion. Modern civilization is considered to be advanced in the standard of the mode of passion. Formerly, the advanced condition was considered to be in the mode of goodness. If there is no liberation for those in the mode of goodness, what to speak of those who are entangled in the mode of passion?
Yeah. So actually in this verse, these verses here, 6, 7, and 8, what Krishna is doing, because the modes of nature are what binds us to this material world. They're called gunas, and Prabhupada says that another meaning of the word guna is rope. So there are these three ropes that tie us down, that bind us to the cycle of repeated birth and death in the material world. So the first rope is the mode of goodness. And that we're seeing that in these verses, word that's being repeated here is badnati. So it's like, but it means to become bound. So Prabhupada says that those who are situated in the mode of goodness become bound by a sense of happiness and knowledge. And those in the mode of passion become bound by unlimited desires and longings. Right? See, Trishna means hankering, like hankering for things, and then nibadnati, that binds. So if we, as long as we have material desires, that's very clearly binding us. Because you want something, you want something, you want something, you can't let it go, and so you're bound. That desire binds you. And one of the main things that people really want very badly is a relationship with the opposite sex, right? And the Prabhupada says this is the main, the most strongly binding rope of the mode of passion, in the category of mode of passion, is this attraction between man and woman. And another place in Bhagavad Gita, he says it's more than a rope. He says it's like a shackle. It's like an iron shackle, the shackles of sex life, and that it chains you down. It's like a really like, it's funny because in, I don't know, in other countries, but in America, they'll say that like a man, he would, kind of jokingly refer to his wife as his ball and chain. Right? Have you heard that before? No? Yeah, maybe only in America. They'll say my ball and chain. In other words, the person who's tying me down. Of course, they mean it in a different sense. They mean it in the sense that this is the person that's like
My rock.
reining me in and, well, just keeping me from just being totally wild and promiscuous and, you know, going from woman to woman and just being a bit nuts. She's like reining me in and tying me down and making me responsible and faithful to one person. But actually, so that's true in a positive sense, but there's also the negative sense that she or he, either partner, they do it to each other, is that their attraction, their attachment for each other can also just keep them in this consciousness of trying to enjoy their relationship through sex and in its gross and subtle forms. So this is something very, very binding. Yeah. And of course, there's that verse from Bhagavatam that says, how's it go? Maituni Bhava. I can't remember how it goes. Oh, Pumsam Striyo Maituni Bhava Metam. Anyways, it says that the essence of material life is this attraction between man and woman, and it causes a knot in the heart that binds both of them to material life. And it doesn't just stop there, but it expands and becomes more complex, right? It becomes it's not just like one knot that you tie, but it's a knot. It's like it ends up being a big lump of complicated knots, because it leads to that combination between man and woman leads to children and home and land and relatives and wealth and all these things that we also get attached to. So it's not just that a woman gets attached to her husband and a man gets attached to his wife, but they both get attached to their children and their home and their careers and the money that they have and the things that they buy with it and all the extended family members and their property and what they use it for and all this. And so it ends up being and then in that verse ends aham something janasya moho yam aham mameti. That in that way the person becomes bewildered into thinking in terms of I, me, and mine. And so this is the result of the mode of passion, that each mode drags us down into the lower one. So mode of passion drags us down into the mode of ignorance, into moha, means illusion. So illusion is a quality of the mode of ignorance, but attraction between man and woman is a quality of the mode of passion. So when we indulge in the mode of passion and get totally absorbed in it, then that will drag us down to the mode of ignorance, into illusion, forgetting who we are, thinking I, me, I'm this body and these things are mine. And then fighting with people that try to, threaten our I, me, and mine state of affairs. And then mode of goodness, it also drags us down into passion by making us think that we're better than others. And it can also even drag us straight into ignorance by becoming complacent, right? Because If you're in the mode of goodness, you're like, yeah, my life is so nice, everything is very good and peaceful. And then you'll become complacent, and you won't, you just won't have the impetus or inspiration to transcend the modes. And so you just get stuck. You know, as Prabhupada said, lifetime after lifetime, repeatedly becoming a philosopher or a poet or a scholar or something. And that's complacency. Inertia is like a kind of inertia, and inertia is from the mode of ignorance. So yeah, the modes are they bind us themselves, and they don't just bind us. It's like they tie us up, but they don't just tie us up and leave us bound. They drag us down. That's how the material energy works. Okay, so now we're gonna read about the mode of ignorance. Tamas tvajnana jam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramadalasya nidravis tanibadnati bharata. Arjuna? Or someone out there? Pragati? Anyone out there?
I can read.
Oh, Kritika, yay.
Yeah, I can read today. O son of Bharat, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Purport. In this verse, the specific application of the word to is very significant. This means that the mode of ignorance is a very peculiar qualification of the embodied soul. The mode of ignorance is just the opposite of the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, by the development of knowledge, one can understand what is what. But the mode of ignorance is just the opposite. Everyone under the spell of the mode of ignorance becomes mad, and a madman cannot understand what is what. Instead of making advancement, one becomes degraded. The definition of the mode of ignorance is stated in the Vedic literature. Vastu yatham yathatmaya jnanavarakam viparyaya jnanakam tamaha. Under the spell of ignorance, one cannot understand a thing as it is. For example, everyone can see that his grandfather has died and therefore he will also die. Man is mortal. The children that he conceives will also die. So death is sure. Still, people are madly accumulating money and working very hard all day and night, not caring for the eternal spirit. That is madness. In their madness, they are very reluctant to make advancement in spiritual understanding. Such people are very lazy. When they are invited to associate for spiritual understanding, they are not much interested. They're not even active like the man who is controlled by the mode of passion. Thus, another symptom of one embedded in the mode of ignorance is that he sleeps more than required. 6 hours of sleep is sufficient, but a man in the mode of ignorance sleeps at least 10 or 12 hours a day. Such a man appears to be always dejected and addicted to intoxicants and sleeping. These are the symptoms of a person conditioned by the mode of ignorance. Wow.
Oh, okay. So the mode of ignorance is very heavy, like a heavy weight that weighs us down and pulls us down. So yeah, Prabhupada says the opposite of the mode of goodness, because the mode of goodness, the quality is prakashakam. It's illuminating. And here it's darkness. Yeah, tama means darkness. And then so mode of goodness, the illumination, it gives us clarity. Whereas mode of ignorance causes mohana, bewilderment and delusion. So no clarity at all, just complete confusion. Oh yeah, ajnana, yeah, it's ignorance. And pramada, madness. People just go crazy. And lazy and crazy. Yeah, so lazy and crazy are the symptoms of ignorance. And then because of the laziness, they sleep too much. Yeah. So this ignorance means that they can't see what Prabhupada says, that under the spell of ignorance, they can't understand a thing as it is. They can't see what's happening in the world. They're just totally like not even able to see basic things and understand that everybody's dying. They're going to die. Their children are going to die. They're going to lose everything at the end of this lifetime, all the money that they worked for, and is all going to be gone. But it's like, whatever, who cares? Don't think about it, you know. And you can see like the civilization, especially Western civilization, is so much governed by the modes of passion and ignorance that uh, anything that would wake us up to reality is intentionally concealed. You know, like death is something very much covered over. Unlike, you know, cultures like in Indian culture, when somebody dies, they'll like, you know, take them, walk them down the street and have a whole procession with the, you know, the body like on a special kind of stretcher-like thing, draped with white cloth and things and garlands. At least this is what I've seen, like in Vrindavan and Mayapur. And they'll carry the body with kirtan, you know, with like musical instruments playing and sacred mantras being chanted, the Hare Krishna mantra being chanted, and they'll do a parade through the streets, and everybody will see. So, and then that parade will often end at some holy river, and then there they'll have somebody who does the funeral pyre, and it's like a public cremation. You know, it's right there out in the open, fresh air on the banks of in Mayapur, they do right on the bank of the Ganga, and people are just down there doing their meditation, doing their sacred bath, and then dead body comes and gets flopped onto a wood pile, and you know, they throw some camphor in there and ignite it, and then everybody's just watching the body burn. So yeah, and everybody's thinking, and those moments where you're watching the body burn, you're thinking, wow, this is going to happen to me one day. I'm going to be on that stretcher. I'm going to get flopped onto that wood pile, and this body's going to go up in smoke. So everybody becomes very serious. And there's even a thing called Shmashana Vairagya. It means the renunciation of the funeral pyre, basically. It means like renunciation that comes upon those who attend a cremation. What it means. So when you go to a cremation, you get this feeling like, oh wow, going to die, I'm going to lose everything. This person, my friends and family are all going to be crying here. I'm going to have to just leave them all. So then you get this feeling of renunciation that, oh, well, if I'm going to lose everything anyway, why am I so attached to it now? Why don't I start practicing detachment now so that we all don't have to cry so much, and so, you know, things are taken care of properly before I have to make my grand permanent exit from this scene. And yeah, but usually that Smashana Vairagya only lasts for maybe like a few days or so. And then as soon as they get back into, you know, life goes on and back into the daily grind, then they forget about their renunciation. They start like, again, trying to build an empire for themselves here in the material world. So this is mode of ignorance. A lot of ignorance. Cannot understand what is what. Okay, any thoughts about these three modes so far? Just had a brief introduction to how these modes bind us in different ways. So basically everybody's entangled. Some are tied by, you know, silk ropes. Some are tied by cotton ropes, and some are tied by ropes made out of just rags that someone found on the street or something. But everybody's tied. This material world, apart from very few liberated souls who have mastered the art of bhakti and transcended them. Divya.
One thought that came to mind was instead, like, I guess this is like this, like in the mode of goodness, instead of thinking, oh, like I'm clean, I'm showering 3 times a day, I'm eating clean, I'm vegetarian diet, I'm following a very clean, yogic, conscious, health conscious lifestyle. Everything in my life is organized, and looking down on others. Really, really, what would be in the mode of goodness would be like having compassion for those that are not there. I think I'm so fortunate that I have this awareness that others don't have. I can try to share it with others in whatever way I can in a compassionate way, but also I'm not to look down at anyone because I don't know their paths, I don't know their conditioning, I don't know anything about them really. So if we instead, like, it's easy, and I get caught up in that too. Before I kind of came back into bhakti, I had a period where I kind of went out and tried my own thing, and I was like really into veganism, and I had like a strong hate for anyone who didn't I guess a passionate, like, why it makes sense, everyone should be following it, it just makes sense, and materially it makes complete sense, but beyond that is like, that's a very narrow lens, like to see like these are the way things are, everyone should be following it this way, and everyone who doesn't is just choosing not to. It's not so simple. Life is not so black and white. So if we let it develop compassion in us and see we're all so different, we're equally valuable to Krishna no matter what mode we're in. He's not looking at us like that. Just like a mother would never look at her child in like a dirty room with the clothes piled up and everywhere and think, what a slob, like this is like this useless child, I wish I had someone, maybe some mothers, but a good mother would have compassion and think, I want to help him get his life organized. I want to help him get him off his feet. I want to help him become clean. One day he's going to have his own kids, and I want to pass that on to him.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's a really helpful thought, that we can avoid getting pulled down into the lower modes from the mode of goodness if instead of looking at others with a condescending mood, we look at them with a compassionate mood. Then we can stay in the mode of goodness, and maybe like rise above the mode of goodness rather than getting pulled down into the modes of passion and ignorance from the mode of goodness. Good. Yeah. So of all these strategies, compassion is something it's a quality that's glorified throughout all the scriptures. It's one of the 26 qualities of a devotee, that daya, right? It's compassion, mercy. We should be merciful. And that will counteract this tendency to think that we're better and become proud. And any other thoughts? What do you think, Pragati?
Yeah, with the last verse of death and everything, I think it's a very good realization, or like a truth in front of us that we only understand when we see this. Like when we are in mode of ignorance, we could only see when we are in mode of goodness that, oh my God, our part was so much in ignorance, and also the truth of life. So yeah, it's a good realization.
Yeah, it's like when they're in the mode of ignorance, they actually think that they're like having a good life. If you see some homeless person who's like a drunk lying on the street, he's actually thinking that he's like got it made. It's like, yep, got everything taken care of. I don't need to work. See all these poor business people rushing to work with their suits and briefcases at 7:30 in the morning, and I'm just chilling here in the park under a tree and a nice cozy park bench, and they're barely even, they're just like these business people are rushing off to work. They're just like, eating a piece of toast and a cup of coffee, and I, they're all wishing that they could just go to the bar and drink, and I pass all day drinking. I'm living the dream life here. They actually like think like that until they rise to the mode of goodness, and then they look at how they used to be, and they're like, oh my God, I was so out of it. I was such a loser, that I was suffering so much. That was the worst. Thank God. But it takes somebody else to be able to be like, bro, what are you doing with your life? You're ruining your life. Do something. So let's just read this text 9 now. Krishna will conclude this little section here, introducing the modes. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajya karmani bharata jnanam avritya tu tama Pramade sanjayatyuta. I'll just read this, it's short. O son of Bharat, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. A person in the mode of goodness is satisfied by his work or intellectual pursuit, just as a philosopher, scientist, or educator may be engaged in a particular field of knowledge and may be satisfied in that way. A man in the mode of passion may be engaged in fruitive activity. He owns as much as he can and spends for good causes. Sometimes he tries to open hospitals, give to charity, institutions, etc. These are the signs of one in the mode of passion. And the mode of ignorance covers knowledge. In the mode of ignorance, whatever one does is good neither for him nor for anyone. So the person in the mode of goodness, they actually, know how to help themselves and to help others. The person in the mode of passion, they try to help themselves and others, but it's all like materially motivated, right? They'll work. Fruitive activity means work for which you get a profit, right? The person in the mode of passion, they're always asking, what's in it for me? What am I getting out of this? So they may do something that looks good, like open a hospital or give to a charity, but it's all for their own. The main motivating factor is not compassion, but it's prestige, right? I'm going to open a hospital so everybody will revere me as a great, philanthropist. And the hospital will be named after me, or, I'll have a plaque there in my honor, or something like that. It's all about personal profit, reputation, honor, distinction, like that. And then a person in the mode of ignorance, whatever they do is just bad. They don't know how to help themselves. They don't know how to help anyone. They just harm themselves and harm others for the most part. Okay, so yeah, as we read through these verses in this chapter and also 17 and 18, we can try to see, ways in which either, in obvious or subtle ways that we're influenced by these different modes. And if we can identify ways that we're influenced by the lower modes, then we really need to, it'll help us to know what we need to work on, right? To rise, because human form of life is meant for elevation. And it's the only form of life where we actually can elevate ourselves. Like we were saying, that a dog cannot elevate himself. He has to act like a dog. It's in my room. If you get the key, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so animals can't elevate themselves, but humans can. So humans need to read the Bhagavad Gita to learn how we're influenced, so we can learn how to elevate ourselves and ultimately transcend all these material influences and ropes that bind us here. Okay. All right. So it is time to end this class. Thank you all for coming. And so we won't have class tomorrow. And then Sunday and Monday are days when we generally don't have class. So we'll resume hopefully on Tuesday. Okay. Thank you all very much. And Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Haribol.
I can't find my last thing. See if I can figure out how to end.
Can you end?